What's going on, guys? We've just gone live. Sorry I'm a little bit late. We've just run over with our Ironman session for the boys at the current state. The Ironman is our high performance unit, which at the moment those boys are doing sevens training. So tonight we're all going live around relationships in rugby and how important they are. There's three categories to cover off. First category we're going to cover is relationships with coaches. Second one we're going to cover is relationships with other players. And the third one we're going to cover is relationships outside. So off-field, as in family, friends, but also mainly importantly for our guys and girls, their partners. So first thing, relationships and coaches. It's really, really important as a player to have a strong relationship with your coach. I don't think you've got to be a suck-ass. It's not about being a suck-ass or giving him what he wants or anything like that. It's about just getting to know him and him off the field. A lot of players, I can guarantee you, have no idea about what their coach does outside of footy. Also from our coaches, on a reverse thing, I know so many coaches that know nothing about their players. Especially in the modern day, what are they studying? What are they into? What's their religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs? What do they want to do? I guess especially from an amateur background, there's only one guy in your team who potentially could make it all the way. And the other guys, you're building relationships, friends for life. It's one of those things, the rugby community and the relationships you can have out of there can really set you apart. One of the biggest things that I see with that is you see it out of a GPS or an AIC old boy system. It's like, I know I want to send my sons to a GPS school, not for the education, not for the rugby or anything like that, purely for the simple fact that when those boys finish school, 10 years later, they might walk into a job interview and be able to go, you went to Nudgy, or you went to TSS, or you went to here, and the chances of getting hired are just increased. Now, if that network you have or that relationship you have with that school is solid, but also with those coaches, there's a lot of coaches in schools and schoolboy systems who will reach out and will push you further, either help you with work or help you get through. So just, guys. Sorry guys, the guys are just being flogged and they're talking a little bit, but it's just something that your relationship with your coach is super important. And I think the number one thing that I see for players is it's all about me. Well, my coach doesn't do this, and my coach doesn't do that, and my coach doesn't do this. What are you actually doing for your coach is super important. How have you asked him how his day is? If he comes in and blasts you at training or does something like that, he's probably had a bad day. Just ask the guy if he's okay. Ask him how his things are going at home, find out his situation. You might actually find that you'll have a lot of things in common. Now, the secret of that is, with a stronger relationship with your coach, I guarantee you in a selection process, if that coach is looking at you or a player of similar ability, if he likes you better, he's going to pick you. All right? If you're a better bloke, if you're classified as a good bloke, he's going to pick you. So I get it a lot with players saying, politics, the coach doesn't like me, the coach doesn't do this, the coach doesn't do that. Well, man, do you even like the coach? What have you done to improve your relationship? There's a reason he doesn't like you. He probably thinks you're an arrogant little prick. So it's up to you to show him that you're a good bloke. In that with coaches, I've spoke to a lot of coaches about this. The number one thing I see from coaches when I ask what is their selection process, number one thing they say, good bloke. Good bloke, good bloke, good bloke. The best bloke is picked over the better player, as long as they're similar quality. It's not about having rubbish players on the field, but it is about being a good bloke. Okay, so the take home from that, guys, is as a player, get to know your coach on a more personal level. As a coach, know each one of your players inside and out. Know them through and through. All right, be understanding of their situations, but don't fall for their bullshit. Okay, don't fall for the excuses that you're going to get, but understand it. Okay, especially with our multiculturalism we have in Australia, you've got to understand 15 different cultures. Okay, just because you are the way you are doesn't mean you have to be like that with other people. So that's the first one, guys. Second one for me, relationship with other players. I think this is really, really important. You'll notice how relationships are at training. All right? There's 25 blokes, even in a league system or a union system. You're not going to get along with everybody. Okay, it's common ground. You're not going to get along with everybody. But there's guys in the team who do get along with everybody. They're just great blokes, and their relationships are strong. And I reckon if you went and spoke to every great bloke in every team, he would have one thing in common. He would be able to tell you at least 10 to 12 blokes in his team who he knows their story. He knows what they've been through. You know, he knows their trials and tribulations. He knows their sacrifices. If you ask someone, not just are they okay, I see this a lot on Facebook, are you okay? It's a great cause, but it's not enough. Build the relationship with your player that you actually know what he's been through. Have an understanding of his life and his culture, and if you can help him. You know, rugby doesn't have to be 2 times a week training and getting on the piss is your relationship. Guys, I can vouch, I'm a little bit different from a lot of people. Every footy player who I've had a relationship around the piss with, I don't have a relationship 5-6 years later with. But the guys who I've gotten to know, the guys who I know their story, okay, and know who they are, inside and on and off the field, they're friends for life. You know, and that's something super powerful after rugby days where, you know, you might be in a bit of strife and you can count on your network of rugby people to help you out. And I know there's a fair few guys watching this who've told me that themselves. My prime example is probably the Sunnybank. I was involved with that club. Their old boy network is very, very strong in helping guys out. I know Brothers is the same, and I imagine it's the same as other clubs as well. But the Sunnybank one is a little bit different because those guys from the 80s and 90s who have those strong relationships, they might come to the club only once a year, but they're the guys who are probably employing half the club, creating the opportunities for the young guys coming through. Like, that's the network you want to have through your players. Guys, I've shot through the first 2 points pretty quickly because the last one for me is the most important. Your relationships off the field will massively affect your performance on the field. I've seen it way too many times, and you see it in the headlines. All these superstars who are, down for domestic violent orders and breaking up with missus and falling away and not doing this, and their career went to shit or whatnot. It's normally to do with either family or your partner. And I know I'm talking from a guy's context. Girls, you can put it in the same boat. I know full well in women's rugby and women's league, the relationships on and off the field are paramount to the team's success. You know, it could be a time bomb, a ticking time bomb, and explode. So take homes. The first point, a point, is relationships with family. Your family have to understand your goal. Okay, they have to understand what you want to achieve with rugby. And even though they're your family and they say they support you, okay, just because they say, oh, this, what about, what else, all the things you hear, guys. The reason they question what you're doing is because they don't know why. And they probably don't think it's strong enough. Okay, if you say, I really want to make it, guys, it's not enough. It's not enough to just want to make it and sacrifice time with your family and friends just to want to make it. So guys, that's a really important one. I think your relationship with your family, your mum, your dad, your brothers and your sisters, they have to understand why it is you spend 15 hours a week away from loved ones. Minimum. Why is it at quality times? So quality times are between 5 and 9 at night, all right? And on Saturdays between 12 and 5, which is rugby times. Why at quality times are you not with them? And you have to have the deeper reason. It can't just because, I want to make it. Okay, I know I made that point, but it's really important to get to the essence of why. You know, are you trying to achieve something? Do you want to break the cycle of what your family's going through? Do you just love the social aspect? You know, is there something greater to what you're trying to achieve? You really have to explain that. And that leads me on to probably the most important point that I'm going to talk about today is your relationship with your partner. I get it probably 6-7 times a week. Oh, bro, I missed training, had to do this with the partner. Or, oh man, I've got to go, I've got to leave, I've got to go do this with the partner. Or she doesn't understand, or he doesn't understand. They don't support me. They say they support me, but I don't get to do this, this and this. And, you know, I've been in this boat. I I would love to meet a rugby player who hasn't been in this boat. I think it's the most common thing, and anyone who's been in the industry for more than 10 years can literally, they'll tell you, bro, that's 100% how it is. 100%. Everyone goes through it, no one talks about it. Okay? For me, the key ingredient is you have to take ownership of, do you actually understand what your partner wants? Okay? Most partners just want to feel like they're important. And when all of a sudden you're taking the quality time component of their week and spending it somewhere else for, in their eyes, not really that important, even though they'll never say that to you, like, you have to understand from their point of view. So I'm going to, at the end, talk about a couple of tips and hints that I've learnt along the way to make a strong relationship off the field that can help you on the field. And trust me, guys, if I knew this was when I was playing, I probably would have played a little higher, but I didn't realise it until it was when I was coaching. And you got to make your partner feel as though they're a part of the process. Most partners look at rugby as the mistress or the other person because that's what they do. You know, you talk about rugby all day, you go to rugby every day, you spend every time on it, and you look really happy when you're there, and then you come home, you're so tired, and you don't spend any quality time, and then you're gone. And you're off to work, and you. But what about them? You know, what about them? So, guys, it's super important. My number one resource on where this clicked to me was there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and every player who I've spoken to laughs at me when I tell them, bro, read the book. Read The 5 Love Languages. Then they go home and they mention it to their partner, and their partner goes, I've told you about this book, you've got to read it. They then do the test in the back. It takes about 15 minutes, and they then realise that everything that they're doing in their life related to their partner means nothing to their partner. It means diddly squat. Okay, you've got to go read the book, and it literally explains how you can communicate and act so that your partner feels loved. Just because you're giving them love doesn't mean that that means the same way they might not receive it how you're giving it. Does that make sense? Do you understand that? And if you don't understand it, you've got to read the book. It's the number one thing. Okay, my number one thing, go read the book. I did this a couple of years ago with my rugby players at Iconz. We did the test as a team. Now, what it helped me understand from a coaching point of view is with my players on how best to communicate with them. All right, so if I've got a player who wants his number one communication and love language is quality time. Now, I'm not trying to get in the sheets with the dude, but if I spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes, just me and him as a player-coach relationship, he is going to feel worthy. He is going to feel important. Do you know what I mean? But if that is their number least quality in love language, if I go and spend that 2 minutes because I need to go talk to them, that message to them means nothing. It means nothing. Their love language, the way to communicate them could be through affirmation. So if I walk over to him and criticize him and say, da-da-da, 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 I've now communicated to him in the worst possible way because he doesn't like it one-on-one in that time, and I've told him everything that's wrong with him where he just wants to be told how good he is. Okay, now I know you got to provide some criticism, but there's a way to build up to then bring down. And you know what, guys, I'm the first one to admit I was the worst at this, and this is why I researched it and spent a lot of time learning how to communicate with players. Now, for the players with their relationships at home, it's the exact same. The message is exactly the same. When you get home, you have to communicate with your partner in a way that it relates to them. Okay, so you need to find out what their love language is. You need to find out how they communicate, what they are. And I'll let you know a little clue. If you can't read the book soon enough, how they act towards you is how they want to be acted towards. And guys, if you look at yourselves, whether you're a male or a female, how you act towards others is how you want to be received. Okay? It's a little clue, a little like hidden hint between the writing. Now, for me, my words are, I'm all about affirmation and touch. So when you talk to me, if you know me, if I shake your hand, a lot of people might have picked up on this or not, I'll actually touch you on the other side of the hand. So I'll grab your arm and hold your hand like that. I'll go like that when I hold your hand. Because that's my way of communicating to you a strong and supportive relationship. I notice when I do that to some people, they freak out. Now for me, that's an instantly sense they don't like touch. Now I know full well not to communicate with that of them. If they then repeat that process to me, okay, as a relationship in building with that person, I can now build that relationship stronger because they understand. Okay, does that make sense? Now, there's other ones that you need to know about. So, guys, my biggest thing about relationships in rugby is the off-field. It is so important. You know, I've seen careers ruined with not being able to hold down a strong relationship. I've seen guys leave mid-season when they could be killing. Catch you later, Eli. When they could be killing it because of off-field relationships. And it's just because they don't get it right. And I guarantee you that the reason they're leaving footy is because their relationship at home ain't right. You know, they're trying to they're trying to shut down one house to try and build another one up. But the other one doesn't even have a foundation, you know. So I guess that's really important, you know. It's kind of the key. It's that secret sauce that no one talks about. And this is what frustrates me with our rugby culture at the moment. And everyone's like, make Wallabies great again, you know, make Australia great at rugby again. And I'll speak from a pure rugby context at the moment. And I guarantee you interview the guys who were around in the John Eales day when we were elite, when we were the top dogs, they would have had great relationships. Whether they had it off the field, I can't vouch for, but I know full well their on-the-field relationships would have been strong. And they would have understood the players around them. And now the common day, the number one thing that I'm seeing with guys is they just don't give a fuck about the guys around them. They don't care about their teammates. It's all about me. How do I make it? Well, you know how you make it? You make it by having strong relationships. Because whether you actually succeed in your rugby or not, you will actually make 10 times better decisions off-field, which will grant you so much more, okay? So much more if you can do that. So, guys, number one resource, the 5 love languages. If you don't know how to get it, contact me. I can get it for you. It's on Amazon. Look it up. Look the book up. I think the author's name's Chapman. It's a great book. Now, for parents out there, if you're a parent, there is the 5 love languages for communicating with kids as well. It'll teach you how to communicate with your kids because they're a little bit different. Similar process, but the language and how you communicate is very different. So guys, the take-homes from tonight, it's a short little session tonight, is number 1, get to know your coach, know about him, and for coaches, know about your players, learn more about the guys around you. You're going to fight harder. It's the old Anzac way, being a digger. You fight harder for the guy next to you because you know he's in the trenches with you. When you go to footy and you just rock up and you know the bloke who's wearing the jersey next to you, if you don't know what he's been through or what he's going through, you're not going to fight harder for him. Does that make sense, guys? When it comes to friends and family, when it comes to other players, do the same thing. Okay, it's all about fighting for your coach and then fighting for the guys around you. All right, and lastly, guys, get your relationships off-field on point. In the last few weeks, I've probably had about 4 or 5 guys since we've opened up the gym who I've spoke to this about one-on-one, and it's nearly brought them to tears because the realisation that you're trying your hardest to make it in rugby, you're trying your hardest to go to work every day and make coin, you're trying the hardest to look after your family, and it smacks you in the face that no matter if you put 50 hours in, you're putting 50 hours a week into your family, 50 hours a week into everything, 100 hours a week into this, and it doesn't mean shit because you're not doing it right. It's the same principles in business. You can spend your whole life working your ass off and go home with a measly $1 million in super, or the people do the exact same amount of time and make $1 million in a year or in a month. You know, it's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous if you understand it. Now, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to touch on a couple of other subjects. I'm getting a lot about guys who come to me and say, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. I heard it today about 4 times from different people. So next week's episode is going to be around time management in rugby and relating to how to deal with training, the how-tos to basically succeed. Now, with a lot of guys, this is coming up into pre-season mode where your workload absolutely doubles. So it'll be around how to maintain relationships in that. There's a little point around that as well. So, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in to another Iconz rugby coaching session. We're doing this week in, week out on a Wednesday night. We're going to be delivering gold nuggets from what we've learned from being coaches since 2009 and running our own program and being involved with rugby. Manny's hopefully on next week. He's been a bit sick and with some family issues at the moment. He'll be back next week. So maybe he'll take the session and you won't have to listen to me again rant and rave about some issues. But guys, I just want to let you know, get your relationships off field fixed first. It will be the key to delivering your relationships on field. And just to reach out there. If anyone doesn't understand what I'm talking about in this point, we'll be posting it on YouTube. As we've said previously, all our content will be on YouTube. Have a listen again. If it doesn't make sense, come on into the gym at ITC for a chat. All right, you don't have to do one of my sessions because not many people can handle them, but just come in for a chat or Facebook message me and just ask, what do I mean? We can always do it over a coffee. I love a good coffee and a yarn, and teaching guys how to really be a man of the house and take care of off-field so that your on-field is a byproduct. Any questions, guys, flick them through. I'm here anytime. The reason I'm trying to become the number one student at this is probably because I needed to learn the most. It's normally the key. I've had some pretty terrible relationships as people have known me over the years have come through. But now I'm finding my rock and improving every day to try and make things better. And communication is the key. And if you can't communicate to the ones that you love the most, you're not going to communicate the ones who you're trying to improve or help the most. Okay, so guys, that's it from me, and I'll chat to you guys soon. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.